how grateful we are to see so many faces ready to flip this district blue. So, firstly, we will hear from Dante Tanner, our campaign chair, who came this close to getting elected to the House of Delegates and will get elected in 2 years.
So thank you all for coming this evening. How are you guys doing tonight? Let's get some more. How are you doing tonight? So this is an amazing turnout. I am so thankful you all came out today. Again, my name is Dante Tanner. I'm the campaign chair and a former nominee for the House of Delegates in District 40. And I will be the future nominee in 2019. Now, the campaign asked me to say a few words about why I'm supporting Allison. So of course, as a former candidate, I look at all the top things you want to look at for a candidate. Fundraising numbers, she's got it. But that's not why I'm supporting Allison. Now we start looking at her background, her resume, solid. History of public service, but that's not even why I'm supporting Allison as well. Is it her daughter? Well, I actually know how to be judged by your daughter, so. But yes, that helps, but that's not quite it. It actually goes back to the first day I met Allison. Now, so last summer, as I was knocking on doors, middle of the summer, sweating through mini shirts, we heard about the tragic events that happened in Charlottesville. And there was a group that was marching throughout Virginia that just wanted to make a stand and say something. Okay. Now, one of the things that we noticed that, that we want to support it, we want to help, but they came to our district really early. So I got a call from Indivisible saying, hey, look, there's no media here, there's nobody here, we just want you to come by and help us out and say hi. Would you mind? I'm like, absolutely, I'll be over there. You too. So when I got there, there were no other candidates there except for Allison. At an event where no one was watching, no one was paying attention, there was no media coverage, there was no Facebook posts. She came there because it was the right thing to do and support all of the people who were marching for what was right in Virginia. That's why I'm supporting Allison. Because when nobody else is looking, she still does what's right, she still does what's honorable, and she is a great and fantastic candidate that represents me. So it is my extreme pleasure to introduce Allison Friedman, the next Congresswoman of District
10. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all for being here and making this such a family affair. I think we have multiple generations here from my daughter Olivia, but also Sam has brought his parents, Carrie has brought her son, and you know, this is really what this is about. I think many of you have heard and experienced what I experienced in 2016. You know, waking up on that November morning hopeful, and Olivia and I got dressed in all white and went down to vote and took turns filling out half of the bubble each. And then our bubble burst, and I woke up the next morning and I called my dad in tears and asked him how I was going to raise my daughter in a country where sexual assault wasn't disqualifying for the highest office in the land. And then January came along, and Olivia wrote a letter to the president about kindness, and when I went to take a picture of it, she told me that I couldn't, because what if the president found out she wrote it and brought his guns to our house? And I told her that being an American means that you stand up for what you believe in, even if the people in power disagree. And that in our family, when we see something unfair, we work to change it. And that's what I've done in my life. I worked on voting rights after an African-American woman called me in the 2000 election from Florida and said, I've just shown 3 forms of ID and a utility bill. What more do I need to do to vote? It's what happened when I found out a judge had ruled that there's no expectation of privacy in a doctor's office. And then that judge was nominated to the Federal Appeals Court, and I helped tell that story and keep that judge off of the appeals court. And it's what happened when I found out that there are over 20 million people trapped in forced labor and human trafficking around the world, many of them tied to the goods we use. and ultimately tied to our federal government and federal procurement. And I worked in President Obama's administration to help reform federal procurement practices across all of the agencies. And so if you add it up, I've spent my life standing up to abuses of power and the support systems that enable them. And in contrast, Barbara Comstock, has been now a support system for the epitome of an abuse of power in this president. And I think, many of you in this room know her playbook, right? She talks like us, and then she votes like them. And this time in the direction of our federal government is too critical to let continue down the path of raiding the federal treasury for self-enrichment. I don't know how many of you saw that he's now just issued an infrastructure plan that includes privatizing our airports, roads, space, and water. And we can do better than that, and we have. But we can only do better than that with your help. And so your coming here at the kickoff of this is just incredibly touching to me, and we'll need your help a lot in the coming months to knock on doors and make phone calls and talk to your friends. And I think Hannah will speak a little bit more about what we need going forward, but you have, you now know where we live. We do kind of actually live here. And you're welcome anytime, and I look forward to talking to all of you afterwards and answering any of your specific questions. Hannah?
So one of the coolest things about working for Allison is that I learn something new and incredibly impressive about her almost every day. And for her, it's just like, oh, that's Thursday, that's Friday. Like, she's been doing this her whole life. So it's just who she is. And then for me, I'm just like, oh my God, how do I get to work for this woman? So it is so exciting to see so much energy in the room. And we will only win if we do what we did in 2017. So knocking on doors, making phone calls, and also starting January 1st, we've been collecting petition signatures that we need to turn in early March. So if you can table to collect petition signatures, that would be incredibly helpful as well. So I would love to discuss this more, and come see me if you have any specific volunteer interest, and we can do this together. So let's flip this seat. Thank you.
Just introduce the team really quickly. So Hannah is our field director. She's straight off of David Reed's campaign, where they took on an incumbent Republican and won by 17 points. Case is somewhere around. He's the campaign manager, former political director of the Democratic Party of Virginia. Melissa Tuck joined us from Mark Herring's campaign. Sam Signori from Northam's campaign. Tom Riley has been with me from the very, very beginning, and I think we knocked over 20 packets together this summer with Olivia. And Henry Bader-Schneider has joined very recently and is helping us with policy. And I think somewhere around here is Zach Kurkowski, who is the chair of the CD10 Democratic Committee. And then Craig Michelle is right there, and he has been guiding our veterans issues and intel defense policy, and just also been helpful to not have me be the oldest person in the room. There are a lot of pop culture references that only Craig and I get. When Hannah says, talk about the Gore campaign, because that was a really formative experience for me, and I was only 7.
Stop the years to smile.
Thank you all.
Yeah, so I'm not going to tell my dad this because it'll inflate his ego, but what's the name of Hannah's roommate?
Renee?
Renee said, oh, like, is that your brother over there? And I was like, no, I have a sister. She's like, someone over there, your last name. Oh, no, that's my dad. And she's like, oh, and I'm like, I'm not telling her that. No way.
So I was just talking to Sam, like I just moved up here from Louisiana. So I was just kind of looking to get involved. I just moved up here. How long have you been here?
Not very long.
Really? How long?
Yeah, since April of last year.
Wow. So 10 months? 10 months, I guess? Or, yeah. Where were you before?
Just DC.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I was born in the area. I lived in the area.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Berry Day School when I lived in DC, and then I moved back here. This is 2000.
You Kane and Allison.
How do you feel about the
2 hours is not that long. No, I want us to go to. I might find out in the library tomorrow.
Horrific because of the process. Not horrific because of what it does for small business, but because of what it doesn't do for workers.
That's so true. Yeah, the library is always a different day.
We spend $670 billion a year in wealth creation subsidies that are, disproportionately distributed to the people who need them the least. And if we truly want to, which I think we should, and actually I believe it's a good idea, the tax code to invest in places that will spur economic growth and opportunity, we're doing it wrong. And this tax bill doubles down on that.
So I would love to hear about
what makes you the best candidate?
In the primary or in the general?
Both.
like Gold's Gyms also.
The primary, I am the best matchup against Barbara Combs, right? I have, a depth of federal experience that she usually uses to discount anybody she's running against. I've raised the most money. I've worked on those issues that she touts as hers. And not having a voting record and running against somebody who made a name for herself as Carl Rove's research director enables me to kind of elevate the conversation to principles and where we're headed rather than she voted for tax increases 5 times, which is what the other runner will have to contend with. In the general election, I'm running to serve the people of Virginia's 10th district, and that's something Barbara Combs has never done.
Things are going great.
I mean, this is a woman who's wondered about why we can't track immigrants the way we track FedEx packages, who refuses to hold town hall, who voted for the tax bill against her constituents' health care and to defund Planned Parenthood and deny gay people the rights to adopt while not actually delivering anything meaningful for the district. I mean, we voted against metro expansion and then showed up at the ribbon cutting. This isn't.
Yes. I mean, I have your email, SW.
I read your
Yeah, as my daughter said. I think I know. Is it because FedEx packages are a thing and things and immigrants are people?
Yeah. So your general, usually your average congressional budget will be between about
that one stuck out to me.
about $1.5 million.
Yeah.
It's just a good one.
In Northern Virginia, Maryland,
One thing I have to ask is, so like, besides the very both my parents are teachers, so what's your plan for education? Because I mean, I know all politicians are going to say children are the future, education's good, we need to keep supporting it. Like, what's your actual implementation of it?
So I would love to read anything you want to send me. I do think there's a lot more we can do within the tax code to subsidize access to education, both early childhood education and making that fundable, and then college. But we have to make sure that teachers' salaries keep pace with the cost of living, and we're not here, right? The minimum amount you need to be able to afford childcare and rent here in Fairfax County is $83,000 a year. That doesn't even include food. So we're pricing our teachers out, and in Virginia, teacher salaries have
True story.
fallen as the cost of living has increased.
Absolutely.
I do
Here
think
he is, like having put his life on the line for our
there's
country.
a lot more we can do in support of Title I schools and some other issues, but
Classic bars.
Do you have any
Oh my God.
do you have any like mailers set up?
She's not having
no,
any.
we're just editing our first.
Okay. Do you know when they're going to ship?
I do not. That Case is the right person to ask about that.
Bye. We're so glad we can make it. She had a blast with originally she was like, we're going home, but then once she started playing with Olivia, I don't want to leave. I want to stay. And I was like dragging her out.
Will you come back sometime?
You're gonna help, right? Help with Mama? Yeah.
Will you kiss your mother for me? No. What about a hug? No, that's totally fine. Just tell Colin that would you tell him I said hello and that he was missed? That seems like a fair deal.
That's a fair thing, yeah. I think so. So good to meet you. Oh my goodness, so exciting for you.
Nice to come.
Of course. How could I not? I had the sitter booked and everything, and I was like, oh yeah, I could just bring.
No, I hesitated to write that because I know.
I know. That's why I just one. I brought one, and it was like, this was totally manageable. But the other one, it would have been no. I'll see ya.
All right.
Well, it was really nice talking to
I'm
you.
being pulled away too.
Okay, have a good one. Thank you.